Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to Retardando YouTube channel page. Myself Supreet CB. This is the first ever class for the chess. In this class, we'll see the basic movement of the two pieces. They are pawns and knights, and also we'll see some of the difficult puzzles on these pawns and knights. Please continue the video. As you can see on my screen now, so already there is an arranged chess board. I'm not going to demonstrate you now how to arrange all the chess pieces now, because once you see the arrangement of all these pieces, I think you can automatically remember or automatically you can learn how these chess pieces are arranged. Also keep having a look on the mouse hovering wherever my mouse moves. So you see the alphabetical letters here. Can you see this down here? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. You can see it, and also here you can see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, these numbers and the alphabetical letters helps us to find out the locations of the pieces inside between the games. Suppose let's say this is, you can see the elephant. As usually in this chess we call this as a rook. Instead of elephant we call this as rook, and this side you see it is commonly we call it as horse, but in chess we'll call it as knight, K-N-I-G-H-T. And you see this is we call camel, so better to replace with this bishop. This is as usual queen, and this is king, and continuing with bishop, knight, and rook, and these we call the pawns. And you see these rooks now, so these rooks is located on the A, and what is the number here? 1. So the position of this left side rook we can always call it as A1, and the position of this right side rook, we can always call it as H1. Remember, whenever you are playing with a white, you should always have alphabetic letters down, and if you're playing in black, always you should have the numbers on your left side. So now the white pieces are our team and the black pieces are opponent. So now let's start one by one pieces, means starting with the least valued piece, that is pawn. Usually in chess these pawns are valued with only 1 point or 1 marks. We can remember like this. So you can see on the second row the number you can see here, second. On the second we call these all the pawns, and there are totally 8 pawns. So how much value will be in total? So 8 into 1, it is 8. Okay, so we'll start with these pawns, how they move it. Okay, as being a starting, if you are playing in a white, of course you have to open the game, you have to start the game. Let's assume that we are opening a pawn from the E file. You see the E alphabet here, and we'll open the pawn from this E file. You can either move this pawn for the 2 steps, or you can move it only for 1 step. Suppose if you move it for 2, then what do we call this position? Is known as E4, because E is the alphabet here, so E column, and 4 is the number you see, so 4 is the row, so we can call it as E4. Suppose if we move this pawn only for 1 step forward, then what do we call this? Yes, this we call as E3. So the pawn movement can be either with 1 step or the 4 or the 2 step. Okay, let's assume that now I moved my pawn from the white side. I'm being playing at E4. Now it's black turn. Okay, let's assume that black will also move the pawn. It is not always compulsory or mandatory to move the pawns only. You can also have a chance of moving the knight. I think at the starting only knights have the capacity to open the game except pawns. Assume that your opponent also moves the pawn from the E file only, and he is moving from the E7. You can see here, so E7 is a row here, so from E7 to E5. Okay, this row number is 5, hence we can call it as E5. Okay, what happens now? Do you think you can go and capture this pawn? No, you cannot capture. Why, you may ask question. I think only for beginners I think this can be a question, but not for everyone. Okay, because I said you only when the pawn moves, only then it can go forward. But when comes the capturing, it cannot go forward, but it can only go with the diagonal. While capturing, the pawn has to go diagonal and capture it. And one more condition is that whenever it is moving or whenever it is capturing, both the process should happen only when it is forward. You cannot move the pawns back, or you cannot capture any opponent's piece with back diagonal like this. So remember, pawns can either move in a 1 step or 2 steps. Once moved, they cannot come back, or also they cannot capture the pieces at the back. And while moving forward, they cannot capture the piece with the front, but only they can capture whatever the piece is there in diagonal. For example, if your opponent, instead of moving from the E file, he has moved D file, so D7 to D5. So if he has moved D7 to D5, then you can either can capture this pawn, or if you wish to go next, you can also move to the next piece. In this case, usually it tempts us to capture the piece. Yes, that time you can capture it. So this is how the very basic movement of these pawns happens. Okay, here the puzzle number 1. So what you see now, can you please pause the video and tell me the white piece square and the black piece square name? This white piece is on E2. Do you agree with this? Because you can see there's an E file here and row number is 2. So you can say the position of this pawn, white, is E2. And what about the black? You can always pause the video and answer yourself. So this will be F6 because F is here and 6 is here. Okay, so now I have already explained you how the pawns move and how the pawns capture. So with this basic knowledge, I would like to put one task. Can you tell me in minimum how many moves a white pawn which is on E2 can capture your opponent's piece which is on F6? I'll repeat my question. Can you please think and tell me in how many minimum moves? I'm not asking the maximum moves, I'm asking you the minimum, because in chess it is all about the minimum. How many minimum moves you are utilizing, that much power you'll be having on a chessboard. So my question is, how many minimum moves you can capture your black's opponent piece? And say that its turn is white's turn. Now your turn is there. Let's assume. As I said you, a chess pawn, the pawns will move either 2 steps or 1 step. Suppose if you move only 1 step here. So let's start the game now. Okay, I have moved this pawn from E2 to E3. And then it's a black turn. And the black's piece, they cannot move 2 here because I said you only at the starting position they have the possibility of moving the 2 pieces, 2 squares. But here the pawn is already on the 6th row. So it's not possible because only on the 7th row it was possible. So now it is a 6th, hence black piece can only move for the 1 step. Okay, so black moved here. And next is white turn. So what you're going to do is, yes, you don't have any other move. You have only one move, that is E3 to E4. If you move to E3 to E4, according to the capturing rules, black piece can capture your pawn. But what I asked you, how you are going to capture the black's piece. But here, black itself is going to capture your piece. Then something went wrong here. So let's go back now. So this was the original position. So what the mistake you did was white moving only one move. That made all the mistakes here. That caused all the mistakes. Instead, moving 1 step, if you ever move it to the 2 squares front, so E2 to E4, if you move like this, then what can black can do? So black can only move 1 step here. So it will move from F6 to F5, then you have the capturing opportunity. So how many moves happen now? So hardly you had 2 moves because white once captures the black piece, then 2 moves completed. So the minimum moves required for the white pawn to capture the black pawn is just 2. It's just 2. So this is the one kind of an example for the puzzle. Let's go to the next puzzle. Okay, I think the second puzzle is on your screen now. Now what you see is you are playing from the black side now. As you see here, I said you